on the Hyde Amendment. I will grant you that paying these expenses makes it possible, right? Maybe you could argue that this enables someone to afford to access abortion, but the policy clearly does not violate the Hyde Amendment because it does not pay for the abortion.
Okay, Brietta, that's kind of cute and lawyerly. No, we don't have the Defense Department cutting checks to Planned Parenthood. I'll grant you that. But when they're facilitating it with taxpayer dollars, that was certainly the intent of Congress. And that's a lawyerly reading of the law. And at the end of the day, let's have a vote. We're having a vote at the House. Senator Tuberville said, let's have a vote in the Senate, and he'll live with it either way. So the question is, why doesn't Schumer take him up on that? Why doesn't the Pentagon take him up on that? And the reason is as you've seen, the administration likes this issue. They like how much your network is covering it, frankly, and they think it's good for them politically. So
what we have here is clearly a failure to communicate, because we have a group of people in this country who don't understand what normal words mean. And when they do understand what they mean, they just don't care. They're fine with breaking the law. And while you say, well, what are they doing wrong? Let me just tell you, that's part of the problem. If the law says you can't do it, you can't do it. If you don't like it, you change the law. That's how the system is supposed to work. But if you have the right political opinions, the American media will gladly allow you to break the law and treat you like you're a hero. If you don't, well, they will attack you. Do you need an example before we get into what we're talking about? Do you remember a couple of years ago when Sally Yates was the acting attorney general, and she didn't want to enforce some laws that Donald Trump had put in place? Maybe executive orders would probably be a better way to say it, how he wanted the rules enforced. She was touted as a conquering hero. She was standing up and saying, I'm not going to do the job because it is against my moral code. I'm not going to do it. And the American media said, you are so brave, so beautiful, and so wonderful. But then a county clerk in Kentucky said, I'm not going to issue marriage licenses. And they said, that mouth-breathing slob, can you believe that she will not issue marriage licenses? She should not only be fired, she should be tried for not following the rules and the laws. This is the exact same situation all over again. They color the news to fit their views. That's it. They're not interested in anything else. The media has done that significantly on this issue of abortion in the Pentagon, specifically involving Tommy Tuberville and the holds he has on what's going on in D.C. Now, they don't do this because they're consistent about laws don't matter, it's not a big deal. It's about what the issue is, and the issue here is abortion. So the people who are breaking the rules get sympathetic treatment. National Security Advisor John Kirby is a perfect example of this. The question he's asked is not a simple question, but the answer he gives is such utter bullshit, it's kind of stunning.
Why is the new DoD policy on abortion critical to military readiness?
By the way, the fact that he referred to it as the DoD policy on abortion is important here because that's exactly what it is. And I got to tell you, the DoD policy on abortion is already in the code. And the policy is you can't spend any money on it. That's it. That should be the end of the question. Whoops, you got me. My bad. Instead, John Kirby says, we're breaking the law because. And he gives a bunch of woke nonsense. But at least he admits it.
I'm really glad you asked that question. No, I mean, I really am. 1 in 5 members of the U.S. military are women. 20%. We're an all-volunteer force. Nobody's forcing you to sign up and go. People volunteer to go. You raise your right hand and you say, I'm gonna do this for a few years or even for my life. And it might cost me my life to do it. And when you sign up and you make that contract, you have every right to expect that the organization, in this case the military, is going to take care of you, and they're going to take care of your families, and they're going to.
It's interesting you say that. Did they expect that when they signed up, that abortions were going to be provided by the Pentagon? Because I don't think they were, because it's against the law, as I mentioned before. Did they expect to be put in situations that were comfortable for them at all times? Because I know I wasn't when I joined the military. So, John Kirby, what are you talking about here? The only thing I expected from the United States military was to be led by competent people, and I was swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. That involves the laws of this nation, and you're breaking one of them right now. So, what are you talking about? And continue.
To make sure that you can serve with dignity and respect, no matter who you are, who you love, or how you worship or don't. And our policies, whether they're diversity, inclusion, and equity, or whether they're about transgender individuals who qualify physically and mentally to serve, to be able to do it with dignity, or whether it's about female service members, 1 in 5, or female family members being able to count on the kinds of health care and reproductive care specifically that they need to serve. That is a foundational, sacred obligation of military leaders across the river.
First off, no, it's not. It is not a foundational principle that women be provided abortions on demand. That's not a foundational principle. It's not something you owe them. And hell, it's not even something you can do. The DEI stuff is fine. If that's your policy, go for it. It's bad policy. It's stupid policy. But if that's your policy, go for it. That's your policy. If your transgender policy is to allow them in, even, as you say, if they mentally and physically are able to do the job, which most of them aren't, because, as we all know, there's a mental factor in here as well. And we can get into the post-op stuff about both genders or new genders or whatever we're referring to, and realize that those people aren't deployable, so that is a lie. Let's just put it that way. I'll be kind about that. But we'll continue with your stupid thing. And now you've ran through the whole thing of we're woke and we want you to know that, so don't be too hard on us because we're on your side, media. Let's get into the abortion stuff.
I've seen it myself, and it matters because it says we're invested in you because you are being willing to invest in us. You're investing your life, your family's livelihood with us. We owe you that back in return. I had a chance a couple of weeks ago to meet with some military spouses here at the White House.
They always tell this story. It's always been a couple weeks since they met with some military spouses at the White House. And I wonder if the Biden administration might bring in military spouses who agree with them politically. I wonder if that's how it works. It's interesting. I wonder if they're going to tell them exactly what they want just so they can use it as a weapon in the media. Well, let's try it.
Some were active duty members, some were spouses, all were women. And 201, they told me, that abortion laws in this country that are now being passed are absolutely having an effect on their willingness to continue serving in uniform or to encourage or discourage, in this case, their spouses from continuing service. So
let's accept that this might be true for a second. None of this changes the law, first off. That's number one. You're going to hear that a lot from me here. None of this changes the law at all. The law is still what it is. Secondly, what a bunch of terrible people. I'm not going to serve the military unless I can get abortions on demand. Is that what they're saying? I'm not going to be deployed to this place unless I can get abortions on demand. Is that a readiness issue? So are you telling me that these women are not going to deploy to Kuwait because they can't get abortions on demand? Is that what you're telling me? Because I don't think that's the argument you think you're making. It's so odd to hear this because it's so politically smart on their part. But it's also such an admission that what they're doing is illegal. And it's an admission they don't care. That's really what it is.
if you don't think there's going to be a retention and a morale issue, think again, because
the DEI stuff, holy crap, the DEI stuff has been a retention nightmare. The virus stuff has been a retention nightmare. We're putting people out because they won't get vaccines And you're talking about retention over whether or not women can get abortions? Are you out of your mind? That is not the issue. Alabama's abortion law, Georgia's abortion law. These are not issues that are keeping people from joining the military. That is such garbage. And I love that he pretends it is true.
It's already having that effect. I have a son in the Navy. I think you all know that, and son-in-law too. They're both stationed down in Norfolk on destroyers. You know, and they're proud to keep serving their country in the Navy. But you know, the Navy told them where to go. You go where you're told. That's the way orders work. You go where you're assigned. You don't get to choose. And so what happens if you get assigned to a state like Alabama, which has a pretty restrictive abortion law in place, and you're concerned about your reproductive care? What do? Do you say no and get out? Well, some people may decide to do that. And what does that mean? That means we lose talent, important talent. And we're, again, an all-volunteer force. Recruiting is tough enough as it is with a very strong economy out there. We want to keep the people that we get, and we want to make sure that they can continue to serve. So it can have an extremely significant impact on our recruiting and our retention. Not to mention, it's just the right darn thing to do for people that raise their hand and agree to serve in the military.